Morning everyone, it's a long overdue video from your friend Head Race. What we're going to do today is install the new chain and sprocket kit on this ZZ-R 1100 D5. This is one I picked up a couple of months ago now, and there's been a few videos on this one. In the last video I updated that I had to replace the original standard exhaust system, which I've now done. As you can see, this exhaust system arrived a couple of weeks ago. It's off a D7, a much later model, but they're exactly the same system. It was never really changed through the life of the D series. The collector is fantastic condition. Both silencers, a couple of little marks on them, just what I'd expect for an exhaust system at this age. And to be honest, it's a good thing because it matches the rest of the bike. It's a very strange layout for a factory system where the left silencer, the collector and the four headers are all one big system. It's very heavy and it's a bit fiddly to put in. Once it's on, it's not too bad, and the right hand silencer just clips into the T-junction on the left. As you can see, the oil cooler is now on as well. It looks a bit wet and shiny. It's not water, guys, it's ACF 50. While everything's off, I'll get everything well coated with ACF 50, so it's going to last a little bit longer hopefully. And the rear under tray is back in. The batteries there just to keep it out of the way, to be honest with you. Got a couple of batteries around the workshop, so that just helps remind me which one goes with which bike. Clocks are back on, all cleaned up, ready to go. So this is the kit we're going to be installing today, everyone. See there, it's a DID X-ring chain, JT sprockets, and there's a new tab washer there as well. There we go. It's a nice kit actually. I got it from M&P Express. It's just always what I do, guys, is take everything out of the packets, take it out of the wrappers, make sure it's what you were hoping for. Make sure it comes with a new link, which this one does. Now, one piece of advice I will give you guys, when you order parts for your bikes, make sure that you look at all the options available for your particular machine. So on the website of the supplier I got these from, they listed a DID X-ring chain and JT sprockets for about £140 odd, I think it was. But what I did, I clicked on the OEM spec kit, which was less than 90 quid, and that came with exactly the same parts. Whether it's something they do with the sort of stock levels or whether it's something they do with some sort of discount system, I'm not sure. So just be aware of that. You save yourself about 40 quid and you get exactly the same thing you would do anyway. So as you can see, the H2 is largely in one piece now. This is purely just to keep everything in one place so I don't get the bits of all the bikes mixed up, because there's bikes all over the place at the moment. So what we'll do, guys, we won't waffle on too much longer. I'm going to move the camera around a fair bit in this video, so we'll see what we can do. First job is get the back wheel out. Catch you in a second. Okay guys, here we go. So we've got a few bits ready on the bit of clean rag next to us here. Got a couple of hex keys. That's for the chain adjuster bolts, that goes in there. Ding, this one goes in the rear axle. The end piece there of the rear axle, and we've got a little flat blade screwdriver here. Really simple. So the first thing you need to do is just pop this little clip out. Really simple, it's not tight. Alright, exactly the same on the other side. I love these concentric chain adjusters, they are so very, very simple. Just had a quick tip here, guys. You'll see the main stands on two wooden bits of snapped off plank there. The reason I do that is just to give the rear wheel that extra bit of lift, and when you come to put the rear wheel back in, it makes things so much easier. You just need to chock up the rear wheel and it gives you so much more wiggle room, particularly with the older bikes like this where you've got silencers and mudguards and stuff all over the place. just makes it that much easier for you and why struggle. So the rear axle at the moment is not very tight, it's just nipped up. So we'll just undo that. There we go. Really, really simple. Obviously when the chain sprocket kit is back on, I'll torque everything up perfectly. And all you do is just remove this end spacer. Once it gets there, it just unscrews the hand tension really. There we go, that's what it looks like. So that just goes on the right hand side of the axle. And what I tend to do this point, guys, I'll just get something, wedge it under the wheel, little piece of plastic pipe's perfect. There you go. All it does, it just stops the rear wheel drop when you pull the axle out, which I'll do now. And there you go, it's as simple as that. So now you pull a bit of plastic pipe out from under the wheel, roll it back, and this is the advantage I was talking about, this piece of wood under the exhaust, under the stand, sorry, and drop your rear wheel out. Simple as that. So there you go, you've got a nice soft garage floor here, so it's okay to rest it on the disc. As long as it's nice and soft, you can do that. That's all the parts just there. Piece of plastic pipe, always useful for something. The spacer from the right hand side. Now a little tip, guys, if you lay the parts out in the order in which they came off the bike, then you won't forget what goes where. I know it sounds remarkably obvious, and to be honest, most things only go one way, but it just keeps everything nice and tidy. So the next job we'll do is get that nice shiny new sprocket and pop it on the sprocket carrier. And these nuts are all, this one falls off the mat there, all been cleaned. I'll be honest, I've tried so many degreasers over the years. I've tried various things that are supposed to be eco-friendly and tried all these weird, wonderful things. Jizzer or Jizer, whatever you want to call it. It's nowhere near as good as it used to be. And to be honest, I've given up with it. I know it's not eco-friendly, guys, but I use this petrol. Just get a little bit of petrol, stick it in an old takeaway container and scrub everything up nice and clean. And make sure you store your petrol for disposal somewhere safe and take it down your local recycling centre. That I honestly do. I know you think it's just BS for YouTube, but it's not. I actually do that. So let's grab the nice new sprocket then. Back in a sec. There you go. As you can see, nice shiny JT sprocket, and this is a 45 tooth sprocket, it says right on the top there. Now the reason it's so shiny, one, it's brand new, and two, I've already coated it in ACF 50 just to keep it nice and fresh looking. Really simple. There we go. That just drops on there. And when you initially put these nuts back on, just do them finger tight, alright? Just to make sure they're going down the threads nice and cleanly. Doesn't make a difference at this point which way you torque them up, because all you're doing is literally just putting them back on the studs, alright? There we go. Just hand tight at the moment. So what I'll do, I'll turn you off for a second. I'll go and get the torque wrench and we'll torque everything up. Okay, here we go. So what I've got in my hand is just a 14mm socket. This isn't a torque wrench, obviously, just to seat everything down. So if you aren't doing it fully tight at this point, guys, literally all you're doing is just seating everything down. So do everything directly opposites first of all. Alright, like that. And again, this isn't fully tight, it's just seating everything down. All you're doing is just nipping it up, alright, which should largely seat the sprocket. There you go. Just check as things go around. It's nicely seated. There's nothing that winds me up more than seeing people use torque wrenches as sockets. It probably wouldn't do any damage, I agree, but it's just me being a bit OCD about that sort of thing. Tools are the way they are for a specific reason. So as you can see, the sprocket is now largely seated down. It's just a case of getting the torque wrench on it now and making sure it's the correct torque settings. Okay, so here's the factory Kawasaki workshop manual. Not sure we'll focus on there, but there we go. Final drive. Can I focus on there? Possibly not. Final drive, rear sprocket nuts, 74 Newton meters. It's my Silverline torque wrench, 1/2 inch drive. Probably won't pick it up because it's quite shiny, but there we go. Now I've set it on 70 Newton meters. Now the reason I do this is because all torque figures are given on the nut and the stud being dry. If you use any sort of lubrication, copper slip, even to a degree Loctite, you need to knock off a little bit. I knock off around about 5% just to make sure that's accounted for when you torque it up. Alright, so what we'll do, pop the 14mm socket on the end and then we'll torque it up. Where's 14? There we go, that's 14. Now what I tend to do is work in what I call clock points. So start at 12, so 12, 6, first of all. Not quite there yet, so just do half a turn underneath. And again, opposites, just to make sure everything sits down like it should. And you can hear that I'm not using it as a ratchet other than to seat it on the bolt itself, or the nut itself more accurately. So at this point we should be able to torque it up. It's quite tight, isn't it? There we go. There we go. And then the one directly opposite. Just put my foot under there, stop it turning. So what? 70 is quite tight, guys. A little tip here, I'll show you. I'll just move the camera. There we go. And then just up. That's that one. That one there. This one's done. There we go, that's all of them. on that one. There we go. Click. 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 There we go. And that's all correctly torqued down. You can do it by popping the hub out, stick it in the bench vise. You can stick the wheel against the wall, all sorts of options. This way works effectively enough. Most important thing is you've got a really soft garage floor. You don't want to damage a disc. So next job is a quick clean up. We'll pop it back in the bike. Okay, there we go. The wheel's loosely back in the right place in the swing arm. There's only one place it can go. There we go. Right, it's just a case of making sure now you put things back in the right sequence. So let's reach across you there. There's a little spacer. Right. Just pops on the end of the dust seal and the bearing there. Now the thing you have to remember with these is once the wheel's in its main situation, you can't get the brake caliper carrier on. There we go. Right. So you have to put the carrier on the end of the spacer first of all, then lift the rear wheel up and then slot the spindle through, which can be a bit tricky if you run out of hands. There we go. Get everything roughly in line. We should be able to realign things a little bit. There we go. Now at this point you need to lift up the rear wheel. There's a couple of ways you can do this. I find the best way is just use that bit of plastic pipe we talked about earlier on. There we go, just kick it under the wheel. And that way it holds everything roughly in the right place. Obviously it's not perfectly lined up, that's just to get you initially in the right place, and you can manoeuvre it down when you're back on the ground. Alright. There we go. So the next job, get the axle, pop it through. Now that's where it gets fiddly, this bit. Go. As you can hear, that's through one set of one bearing. Now you can get everything a bit more lined up. Bit of delicate adjustment. Make sure your pipe's under the wheel. Just give it a gentle tap. There we go. That's most of the way through. Double check you aren't going to obviously misalign anything. Okay, there we go. And there we go. That's the rear axle in. Really simple. You can take the bit of pipe away now. There we go. Now just give the wheel a quick spin. Make sure you're all okay. Make sure there's nothing running or rubbing anything else. Don't worry too much about wheel alignment at this point, because we're going to obviously put the chain and things on, and at that point we'll get everything perfect. There we go, it goes backwards and forwards. How about that? Bi-directional one, special equipment. Now, this part gets a little tricky with these. It's not hard, just need to know what you're doing. Right. So what you'll find, when the wheel hangs like that, the rear axle, it won't let you put the spacer thing on at the end. Let's just sort my racks and tools and things out here. Right, so if you pop it in there, then you'll find the rear wheel needs to be lifted up a tiny little bit, just so that locates on the end of the axle. So get you a little hex key there, other one. And it's just a case now of getting this to locate the end of the axle. And sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly, and sometimes it goes straight in. This one's been a bit fiddly today. Come on. There we go. Just loosely tighten it up. Just waiting for the comments about me nicking the exhaust. To be honest, guys, it's got so many marks and things on it, I'm not desperately worried, just in case of being as careful as I can be. I'll just do it literally, just nip it up. There you go, nice and loose. And again, just give it a quick wipe down. Make sure everything's okay. Let's show you what we look like. There we go. Check it out. So what I tend to do at this point, of course you're going to retorque everything and make it all nice and tight and proper, but at this point just give it a last little tweak. It's not tight, it's just nipped up, and pop these little spring clips back in. That way you won't lose them. There we go, they just push in really easy. Don't need sort of force on them. And there you go, that's the rear sprocket on. So we'll move around now to the front sprocket. Cool, right, here we go then, let's go for the front sprocket. Now the rear's all on, got a few bits and bobs. See on the ground there, there we go, nice new sprocket. And the little tab washer that you bend over at the end of installing the front sprocket when it's all torqued up. So I've kept just to make sure everything doesn't get lost. Okay. Let's undo that. There we go, guys, that's where the nice new shiny gearbox sprocket is going to go. Now what you need to do with these, make sure the area is nice and clean, get rid of any old chain gunk, make sure the threads are all nice and clean, and if you do you want to use thread lock, go for it. I personally don't. No real reason behind that, it's just that when the rear gearbox sprocket nut is torqued up enough with a tab washer, it can't go anywhere anyway. I really don't see the point in using thread lock, so make sure you get these in the right order. So sprocket first. The way you know the sprocket is the correct way around is the labels and the sizings come on the way facing out. Just find a position where it will slide on there. There we go, like that. Okay, really simple. And then the tab washer goes on next. There you go, just like that. Really, really simple. And then the big nut. And there you go. Just do it hand tight for now. and then once the chain itself is in place, then we'll torque everything up exactly as it should be. But installing the front sprocket is really that simple. It's just a case of making sure everything's clean, making sure you've got it in the right sequence, and make sure that any markings on there. This is a 17 sprocket, 17 tooth sprocket. I'll get this right in a minute. And just making sure your markings are facing out. Simple as that. Okay, now for this section we need to make sure that the chain is going to be in its slackest position when we first install it, mainly because it makes it easier really. Now how you do that on the bikes with the concentric adjusters, just loosen off these bolts. And again, these are not very tight, only because I'm working on the bike. Once everything is done, I'll put everything in the correct torque. And the way you move these is you get a nice big 8mm socket, 8mm hex key, or is it 10, whichever size it is, and then just rotate that concentric adjuster so it's in the right place. It is literally that simple. So you can see the adjustment marks just here. That goes in there, and you rotate it round so it's in the slackish position. And just give it a quick nip so it doesn't slide. And the other side normally follows suit. We'll just double check it. Yep, absolutely fine. That's followed it exactly. So just nip them up. You really don't have them to do very tight at all. Just literally just nip them up just so they're firm. It just stops it rotating around while you're putting the chain on. There we go, simple as that. Let's get our nice new chain. Let's put a couple of rags on the floor just in case it hits the ground. Okay. Now what you'll see in your kit is you'll have, oh dear, we'll start together. There we go, you have your nice new chain. It's not a gold chain, just a standard chain. It's X-ring, DID, good bit of kit. And you'll have, in the same little packet that has the link in it, you'll have a little packet of grease. Whether you choose to use it is up to you. Personally, I use my own stuff. And you'll see a little packet like this. Alright, what you should have in there is that part. Okay. You'll have the faceplate. And you'll have 4 O or X rings, depends on what type of chain you bought. This is an X ring. So a little packet there with 4 X rings. Just make sure you got all those parts first of all, and putting your rubbish out the way. That's really important when you install these guys. I have sent it down the other way for some weird reason. I've got no idea why someone would do it. When you put the link in, make sure it comes from the inside of the wheel and faces out. I know it sounds crazy, who the hell will put the wrong way around? I have seen it done. People achieve remarkable things some way. So now what we'll do, we'll put the new chain around. Okay, let's just get that ready there. Let's make sure I don't kick you. Oops, excuse me. There we go, it's my legs. There we go. That's the reason I put the rag on the floor, as you can see. Let's go stuck behind there. There we go. Over the sprocket. It falls off again. There we go, pull around. Across the top of the swing arm. Around your nicely installed front sprocket. There we go. Keep your fingers well clear of the sprockets themselves, because if you keep your finger stuck in there, it will bite. I have seen people's fingers come off. And a friend of mine many years ago was lubricating his chain with the engine running, but I told him what a stupid thing to do. He said, oh, I've been doing it for years, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And the predictable thing happened, where he got his finger stuck in the chain and his finger flew off. To be extremely careful, and there you go, as you should be able to see. It should line up just like that. Okay? Sometimes the chains stay on there, sometimes they drop off. That's going to stay on this one, excellent. Now, I'm just going to go and undo this little packet. Back in a sec, excuse me. Oh, there we go. So we're now back. So the number of chain links I've seen where people have forgot to do the first two and just got the two on the outside of the link in. Okay, so that's what you should be looking at. You should be looking at the chain like that. Then you want to get your link here. Just come in the other side so I can show you what I'm doing. Excuse my legs. There you go. Right. So, link. Make sure it's nice and clean. Actually, before I do that, I will show you one thing. I'm not sure whether the camera will catch it on the focus or not. With your chain tool, make sure you've got the right type of tool for the link. What you'll find with a DID link like this, you've got the holes already kind of pre-put in the end of the link. With kits like Renthal kits, they're a hard link and they're completely flat, and you need a special tool called a whale tool to do those. You can do it with a normal chain tool. I wouldn't recommend it with a DID kit like this. Most other links you'll find like that already with little holes in the end of the pins there. Alright, so pop your two seals on. Okay, extra O-rings just like that. Okay, push it through from the back. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a wiggle. Now I tend to do the bit where it's going to fall off first of all. So the bottom one. There we go. It can be a little bit fiddly sometimes. There we go, and push it through. Simple as that. So just double check it's all seated down correctly, and you should have your link presenting like that. Okay, at this point it will stick out slightly further than the other links. That's because it's not been compressed in with the chain tool. So at this point, just get the other rings, pop them over the pins. These aren't sided, they just go on either way. Okay, doesn't make any difference. There we go. And now you get your faceplate. Now with that, you'll find you've got a plain side and you've got a riveted side. Doesn't make any difference which way round it goes, really. Just checking for any markings. This will be fine. Nope, absolutely fine. Good. And then put your link with the size information just facing out. Now it won't push on very far, but just locate it over the pins. That's just a very loose fit at the moment. Okay, I'll go and get my chain tool. Okay, welcome back guys. Now we're going to actually put the link properly into the chain, properly install it, and do it up using the chain tool. So this is the link we're going to do just here, pointed out by my nice 19mm assistant. Going to need a 19mm spanner. That actually goes on the chain tool itself. This is my chain tool, Oxford chain tool. I've always found this really good. It's done every chain I've ever done, apart from the rental kits, which I got a local place to do with a whale tool. Now when you set these up, you need to make sure you've got the right parts in your chain tool, okay? What you'll need, oh, there we go, this is called the anvil, and you'll see it's got a little hole in the end where the rivet actually sits in there. Okay, just do it hand tight, doesn't it be very tight. If you want to nip it up, you can do, just with a quick nip on the 19. Not tight, just nip it up, make sure your handle's tight. This bit is the main bolt, which actually compresses things in and out. Alright. Focus. Now this is the really key part. These are the plates that actually install the faceplate at the correct tension. And what you should be able to see on this one is it's got like a little step on the side. You see, look? And I find this fits most 530 chains, in fact all 530 chains. And this little channel here, the reason that is there is to make sure when you put the faceplate on, you don't squash the pins. And the best way to check you've got the right plate is pop it on the link like that and make sure it doesn't slide around, which this one doesn't. It's perfect. Make sure it covers the pins, which this one does. Okay, I know it's not the link we're going to tighten up, guys, before we start firing comments, so I'm just showing you the example because the pins aren't sticking out. Now if you look from the top of the plate itself, you should be able to see about 1/2 mil clearance between the rivet, this part here, and the back of the faceplate, if that makes sense. You should have a tiny bit of play just like that, but as long as these parts here sit flush on the faceplate and the pins aren't touching the back of this in here, this is the correct one. This one's actually got a little lip on the top there to stop it sliding around as well, which is what I like about it. Alright, now this part slides into your main bolt like that, really simple. And then what you need to do is pop that over your link, screw it right back, there we go, there we go, you'll feel it just pop in like that. Make sure it's all located properly. Make sure it's covering the links, which this one is. Just have a little bit of wobble around, make sure a bit happier with that. Should be between the two links, which it is. Oops. That happens quite a lot. There we go, let's pop that in there. Oh, it's all falling apart. Bollocks. Right, let's start that again. Just wind that right back, there we go. Go, just start to move it around, just get that moving around so the faceplate starts to go on. Now what I tend to do is just start it off, then take the chain tool off and make sure it's all going in the way it should be, rather than force it. As you can see, each one's going in slightly from the bottom first of all, so move it up to the top link, or top pin more accurately. There we go. And wind it on a bit. It doesn't need much pressure on it, and you should see now the faceplate has started to go on like that. Okay. At this point, just make sure it's all located correctly. And just alternate the pins. Just do a turn at a time, turn and a half, something like that. And take it off. Just keep checking. Oh, there we go. Let's just give you a quick zoom in of what you should be seeing. So what you should be seeing, focus, is the pins just starting to come through the side of the link like that, okay? Oh, alright, that's what you should be seeing. So it looks at this stage like we're doing everything correctly. There we go. So what you should be able to see is the link pretty much sitting in line with the rest. And the way you know the faceplate is correct is when it's in line with the rest. And as you can see, the bottom half is in line with the one behind it, and the top half is exactly in line with the one above it. The pins are all gone through nice and flush. So that is about correct. What you will see is people massively over tighten these, hanging off the spanners and things, and hanging off 19mm sockets with various bits of tool which are no way correct. The faceplate should not be so tight as you need to do that. What you'll find otherwise is that you'll get a tight chain. Okay? Now what you can check, because the chain is so loose, just roll it backwards and forwards and make sure the link itself is free to move, which in this case is perfect. Alright. What we'll do, just a tiny bit more on that bottom pin. I can see it's not perfectly flat with the other one. It's pretty much there, maybe just half a turn. Just to make sure that I'm very, very happy with that. There we go. Just another half a turn. Yeah, I can see that's exactly perfect now. There we go. Nice easy that bit, isn't it? So what we'll do now, we'll change the chain tool around into the mode for flaring the pins. Okay, so I've adjusted my chain tool now. We'll set it up correctly for flaring. All you need to do is keep the anvil, this bit at the back here, exactly the same as before. You'll see it's got like a little hole in it for the rivet to sit into. The big bolt on the top here, they call it bolt B and various other things. You just need to screw into that. Let me take it out for you and show you. second. There it comes. This part. This is your flaring tool. It's got like a little nipple on the end of it. Nipple, haha, very funny, BBC humour. Okay, that just screws into the end of the bolt, like this. Alright. Focus. Okay. Like that. So what you do now, you put it over each pin in turn. There we go, just making sure it locates into each hole. So that was the hole on the end of the pin that I talked about. And the anvil sits over the back of the link, so to speak. And get your 19mm spanner again. Now this bit is quite tough. You need to be quite strong to do this bit. And I find that moving it in and out, rather than continuously winding, is a more effective way of flaring. Okay. It hasn't got to be flared out by a massive amount. I've seen some of these flared out so much that the pin would actually lose integrity at that much. Should be able to see a little bit of difference there. I'll do the bottom one the same amount. There you go, so what you should be able to see, hopefully, let's turn you over. Let's bring that link up for you. So here we are, this one here, yeah? And you can see where the chain tool's been pressing in. Just about got a slightly shinier part where the tool's been sitting in there. That's what you want to achieve, okay? What I will do is get my bigger 19mm spanner. There we go, nice Halford Advanced one. So once I've started with the small spanner, just to get everything located and sitting right and just started to flare, I'll change over to the big one because it's got more leverage on it. And at this point, this is the last part of the flaring, okay? And this is the point of no return, guys. Once you've got to this point on your link, if you make a mistake and you want to unwind it or change anything, you can't. It means a new link, alright? So once you're at this point, you're committed. Now I know I keep taking it off and putting it on, taking it off and putting it on, taking it off and putting it on. I know that it probably gets frustrating for you to watch, but it's much better to take your time and do it in stages and check everything is correct. It takes a couple of extra seconds than force it and something's not aligned or something's not quite as it should be, and at that point you've lost the link. You have to buy a new link. I'm actually really happy with that. I'm just going to put maybe another half a turn on there just to make sure. I'm very happy with that. Okay. Yep, I'm really happy with that. So let's just do the bottom one. And that is done. One fitted link. It is fairly straightforward, isn't it, really, when you know how to do it. I appreciate any comments, of course, guys, any feedback. I've been doing this for, oh, I don't know, 20, 25 odd years now. Never had any problems, and that includes my my track days, everything else, big ZX 10Rs, all sorts of things. What some people do is they paint this link here, and I have done that in the past. Just makes it easy to find. After the first few miles, just give it a bit of a check, make sure you're happy with everything. And if you want to do that, there's certainly no harm in it. And that's how you do your link. We'll move on to the tighten the chain next. Okay guys, as you can see, chain is very, very slack, completely slack. So now we just need to adjust it up, which is really simple. Just loosen off these bolts at the back of the swing arm. Not all the way, just loosen them off just so the wheel can, or the adjusters can move more accurately under a bit of control. That just goes in there and just turn it around until you get, so that's 3 marks on there. That's not enough. That's 4. That's probably not far off. So we'll start with 4. There we go, that's exactly 4 on that side. And exactly 4 on that side. I think we'll take that. So now just nip it up. And we'll torque those up properly when we do the axle. There we go. Happy with that? Okay, so next part, just need to torque up the chain adjuster lock nut bolt thingies. It's 40 Newton meters apparently. Let's get that in there. There we go. And the other side. There we go, simple as that. Give it all a quick spin. Absolutely fine. Now we need to do the main axle nut itself, which they quote something stupid. There we go. Rear axle nut. 110 newton meters. That's just ridiculous. That's too much. Let's go for 98 to start with. Because don't forget, like I said, the nut itself has got copper slip on it, so it's just taken into account for that. Let's put that 8mm hex key in this end, just stop it spinning. There we go. Come on, there you come. There we go. And that is the back end of the bike done. Once you pop the clips in. Perhaps just a teeny tiny little bit slack at the moment. As always, find the tight spot. Every chain's got one. Yeah, a teeny tiny bit slack, but once we've got a few miles on it, we'll just nip that up. These just push in, these little spring clips. And that is the back end all completely done. Now I haven't forgotten it before you say anything. We'll just torque up that front sprocket nut.